your position is that cancer, but not just cancer, all kinds of illnesses are caused by weakened immune system and inflammation.
It's all about the immune system. Your body functions, you live or you die by the immune system. The senescent cells aging is the immune system. The cells in your body that allow you to go to 100 years old, 120 years old, is based on the activity and the function of the immune system, because the immune system what's regulating your healthy cells.
Can we just go through, I know this is not like patentable, this is not your business, but what are some of the obvious things a person can do to strengthen his immune system?
So you ask, what activates the natural killer cell? So
yes.
It's like, when you look at the leaf and you talk about apoptosis, and the leaf actually sits and goes brown, and it changes, but then it goes back up. So all of human nature, all of nature is filled with this biology of this balance. So you're a product of nature. I mean, literally you're a product of when you were a tadpole and a fish as we came out. So this cell is evolved since the Cambrian age. Think about that. This natural killer cell in your body. I published my first article in Natural Killer Cell in 1990. This cell was only discovered in the 1970s. Think about that. And we've ignored that cell. This is what I call the missing link. I'm going to announce that at the American Urology Conference in Las Vegas in the end of this month. We have discovered, I've not discovered the missing link, we've discovered the awareness of this missing link and how to activate this missing link. So the idea is to activate the natural killer cell. It has 30,000 receptors on this cell. What this natural killer cell does, it replenishes itself with sleep. So sleep is important. It replenishes itself with light, with sunlight. And I believe there's a certain wavelength, the red wavelength in the sunlight, that it actually requires for it to be stimulated. So
this is why people get sicker in the winter.
Exactly. That's why Seattle has the highest suicide rate. Think about that, right? So these things, and if you look at the places like Norway and Sweden where there's very little sun, Finland. So nature's all about light, sunlight. So that's why I think this is...
I like obvious observation. Nature's all about sunlight, of course. Plants don't grow without sunlight.
Right. And at the end of the day, we either about neutrons, photons, and electrons. That's what we are. We as a human being is nothing else but a battery and end gate. When you think about that, right? So we have a bunch of electrons and neutrons and charges that floating through us that actually interact. And that's how I think of the human body. That's what I said. I think of it as an astrophysicist. It's crazy, but that's how my mind works.
So sleep, getting sunlight,
and having food that doesn't immunosuppress your biome. The bacteria in your body sends out materials that actually will immunosuppress or activate.
What are the immunosuppressive foods?
Unfortunately, I think most natural foods are fine. It's the toxins in the food. Exactly what I said, the excipients. So when we talk about red dye, the processed foods, all this unnatural processed stuff ultimately cause inflammation. Now, when it gets back to this plasticity of inflammation causes immunosuppression because it causes all these cells to flip from the killer state to the suppressor state. That's why we said we have this dichotomy of, is the cat alive, is the cat dead?
You see it too in the elderly. It's why an infection or a diabetic foot infection can lead to a systemic infection and kill the person.
Correct.
Right. So last year I get home and there are all these boxes in the kitchen. I wonder what these are. I open up one and they are tortilla chips made by a company I never heard of called Masa. Masa chips are not like other tortilla chips in that they are all natural. There are only 3 ingredients in the chips, and there are no seed oils whatsoever. My wife had ordered these because she's a healthy person, and so I immediately hit them hard, and they're delicious. And not only are they delicious, they don't make you feel bad. You hit any kind of chip on the market in the United States, eat a whole bag of them, for example, and man, you do not feel good. I'm not going to get more specific, but you just, it's like a head injury. You eat a bag of masa chips, and I can confirm this because I did, and you feel great. You feel totally fine because it's real food. There's nothing weird in there. There are no weird chemicals in there. Once again, there are no seed oils, just 3 simple ingredients. And so I thought, well, this is a pretty amazing company making a snack food that's not going to kill you, and you don't have to feel bad about it. It's like basically what your grandparents ate. So we reached out to Masa and said, hey, if you ever do advertising, we'd love to advertise them because we love the chips. And they said, sure. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're telling the truth about something that we eat and love and we think is great and recommend it strongly on the basis of more personal experience than I want to admit in public, but they're really, really good. So you can go to masachips.com/discount/Tucker to start snacking well. You get 20% off your first order. We enjoy them. Hope you do too.
That's why, when this guy discovered that H. pylori causes gastric ulcer, they said, you're nuts. It's acid.
I remember that
right?
So well. So
now when you think about that, so that's what I'm saying, this dogma.
But that's a consensus now, right? Acid does not cause ulcers.
Well, it's the cause and effect. So H. pylori causes the inflammation, and then the acid that's naturally in your stomach activates it.
But it's not the core cause.
Correct. But it's all about dogma. That's why I call this a vaccine, but it's a bioshield.
So
you have to fight dogma. Part of the problem is you're fighting. So I will ask you, I wanted to ask us to do an experiment.
I'm all for it.
Where we pick up the phone, call any random oncologist, not to shame them, primary care physician, pick up the phone and said, you do a CBC, correct? Yes.
Can you define what a CBC is?
A complete blood count. You take a blood and you look for...
Yeah, the blood screen that everyone
blood
gets.
Screen.
Yeah.
For whether you're anemic or not anemic.
Yeah.
People understand that, right? Red blood cells. And you see these red blood cells. And you give chemotherapy and radiation. And you ask, what do you look for? Well, we look to see if you're anemic. So we can give you this drug that Amgen makes called Epogen. We look to see whether your platelets have gone down. So we can give you a platelet transfusion. We look to see whether your neutrophils have gone down so that you don't get an infection called neutropenic fever. So we give you this drug, Epogen. Well, the problem is, does red blood cells cure cancer? No. Does platelets cure cancer? No. Does neutrophils kill cancer? No. What kills cancer? The natural killer cells and T cells. So in that CBC, there's a thing called the lymphocytes, correct? Do you look at that? No. The only cell that is important that kills cancer, 99.9% of oncologists will say, we don't pay any attention to that.
That
is
use
surprising.
A colloquial term, that does seem ass backwards. Why? If you're not to attack oncologists, but if you're fighting cancer, why do you ignore the one cell that fights cancer?
That's the experiment I want us to do. and
that's a little mysterious. Am I missing something?
That's exactly. That's the missing link. The final frontier, the E = mc², the God's equation. That is the key element in your body that we've been missing for 50 years. For 50 years. But it's even worse than that. Those missing links we've actually destroyed with chemotherapy. We've destroyed with radiotherapy, and we've destroyed with checkpoint inhibitors. We've destroyed with steroids. Guess what we give to patients? Chemotherapy, radiotherapy, steroids, and checkpoints. Am I missing something?
I don't know anything about this. I was a Russian studies major, but I have just because I'm 55, I know a lot of cancer patients. I have always been skeptical that the protocol is effective so what I have noticed is those therapies seem to beat back the cancer short term. But then so often you watch it come roaring back. I'm in remission, and then wham, you just get hit by a tidal wave of cancer and eliminated.
So if you see my writings, I have written so many times, you win the battle and you lose the war.
So this is not, I'm not imagining this phenomenon.
You're not imagining it. You win the battle and you lose the war. The reason you win the battle is because you see this little blip of a response with chemotherapy. And then the moment you stop, or not even, you've actually now killed the cells that were there to protect you. You've upregulated the suppressor cells, and you get metastasis, and you say, oops, sorry, you now have to go to hospice. Think about that. That's what we've been doing for 50 years. That's the dogma that I'm fighting.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.